Margarita Moscoso, and my claim to fame is I'm a resident of the East Cliff. Good evening and welcome to this community meeting for to discuss the proposals by Bretts to expand their works at the port of Ramsgate. This is strictly a non-political gathering by all interested parties from residents and friends of Ramsgate. Without further ado, I will hand over to John Davis, who's currently talking, Chair of the Friends of Ramsgate Seafront.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few technical procedural points. Obviously, I think we're all aware that in the event of a fire, that's the way out. However, should there be any emergency, there is a fire exit there and an emergency exit there. There is one through by the ladies. Just to make you also aware, the meeting is being filmed, both by the media and by representatives of the community. If anybody has any issue with being filmed, be aware that that is going on, and you may wish to either retreat to the back of the room or... But that's the situation, and unfortunately we can't not film this. Just to set the scene, the meeting is, as we're aware, about the toxic threat to our seafront environment. Out of interest, how many in the room were aware or around, because we do have a lot of newcomers and things, when we faced the threat from O'Regan? Most people, that's good, so you'll be aware of the issues that were at hand. For those of you that aren't, you will be enlightened as we go on. This situation that we face is far, far more serious than we faced with O'Regan, which was simply a set of proposals. This is a procedure that has been going on under the radar without proper consultation, and that's why we all need to be aware and why we've called the meeting this evening. However, breaking news this afternoon, and some of you will have seen the BBC bulletin a little while ago, is about freight movements that are also, there has been a secret agenda that is going to be revealed this evening by one of our speakers, and is very also piled on top of threats, is an incredibly serious threat to our community, our leisure facilities and our seafront. With no more ado, I'm going to pass you over to the first speaker, which is John Walker, who's chair of the Ramsgate Society, and he's going to talk about what their view is of the Bretts proposals and what they have done so far. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Believe it or not, I've lost my voice this week, so I can hardly speak. Can you hear me using this microphone? Oh, that's good. Yeah. Can I just, before I start, ask how many people... Sorry?
We can't hear you very well here in the back.
Oh, well, I'm speaking. Yeah, do you want to turn it up? How many people here, out of interest, are members of the Ramsgate Society? I knew I should have brought some application forms. Too late now. Anyway, we first heard this proposal a couple of weeks ago. I gather it's been going on for a considerable length of time. But, and people are obviously understandably getting quite emotional about it, and one can understand that. But in the Ramsgate Society, what we wanted to focus on were the planning issues, because that's what is going to decide the outcome of this application. So we have made a submission to KCC setting out our views, and I thought, just to set this meeting going tonight, if I just read, and it won't take me 3 minutes, I don't think, if I just read what our submission is, I hope it captures the main points, and that will give some food for thought as the meeting develops. So what we said is this: the inshore waters of Kent have an exceptionally rich natural heritage. Almost the entire coast falls within a marine protection area, with the majority of the inshore seas being of European significance. This makes the Kent coast of outstanding importance both within the UK and internationally. 3 marine conservation zones were designated in 2013, and the port is adjacent to one of these. This profusion of designations not only demonstrates the importance of this coast, but the wide range of habitats and species which it supports. The coast around the port is protected by the following local, national and international designations. It is a marine protection area. It is a marine conservation zone. It's a local nature reserve. It's a national nature reserve. It's a Natura 2000, which is a designation that was given in 2000. It's a Ramsar site, which is an international designation. That's the place that the conference took place. It's a site of special scientific interest, and it's a special area of conservation and a special protection area. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 special protections on the coast around where the site is. So in our view, it's inconceivable that this application can be determined without a full environmental impact assessment and a habitats regulation assessment. The KCC planning website indicates that neither of these essential requirements have been met. We recommend, therefore, that the consultation period be paused until the planning authority has been provided with these reports, and that the consultation period recommences when this information is available. I think we need to see what the Environmental Impact Assessment says. Under the Pollution Prevention Control Act of 1999, there should be, and I quote, no visible emissions from any source beyond the site boundary. In view of the highly sensitive nature of the Pegwell Bay SSSI, it would be essential that there should be an absolute requirement to comply with this legal obligation, and full details of how this is to be achieved should be part of the application. Unlike the importation of aggregates, neither concrete batching or sand and aggregate washing are authorised port activities. That's the legal definition. This application, therefore, is for an unauthorised use and must comply fully with strict environmental regulations. Whilst many of us want the Port of Ramsgate to be a viable business and an asset to the local economy, we do not want to see this at the expense of every local, national and international statutory protection for designated sites such as Pegwell Bay. If Ramsgate is to flourish, it needs to create a high-quality environment to attract the businesses and visitors on which our local economy depends. So that was our statement to the planning people. We've had no acknowledgement yet, no doubt they'll take it into account. So that's the position of the Ramsgate Society, and I hope that's helpful when the general discussion broadens out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. I think that's quite enlightening so far, and it certainly clarifies the position of your organisation, which also backs up the fact that Ramsgate Town Council have actually made a formal objection and observations and requested a full habitat regulation assessment. So thank you to the Town Council, and there are councillors in the room, and thank you for the support. I think it's important that we say at this point as well that this is an apolitical cross-party community initiative. This is no party. We do not have space in this community situation to be bickering or have partisan arguments, irrespective of our political beliefs or our stance on other issues. It is vital that we stand united as a community on this. And please. I'm now going to take the opportunity to pass you over to someone known to an awful lot of you, for one reason or another. Either her thespian behaviour or her excellent campaigning and work on a project in the town. Janet Fielding.
Thank you, John. I live on the West Cliff. I overlook the Brett's site. And despite what it says in Brett's application to KCC, I can see the site, and I am within 500 metres, as is the start of the Ramsar site, etc., etc., etc. So when this permission was given by TDC for the development to go ahead in 2010 and allowing Brett's to install the cement batching plant, there should have been a habitat regulation assessment. There was not. I think that leaves Thanet District Council open to a legal challenge on the issue. It doesn't mean that it is absolutely lawful. Now, the reason why I raise the question of lawfulness is both TDC and KCC are very keen on telling us that it's a general permitted development order, and they seem to imply that that means anything goes. Well, no, it doesn't quite. Kent County Council have informed us that the local and district councils are powerless in the face of a general permitted development order because it comes from central government. Not quite. There are restrictions, and one of those restrictions is a height restriction of 15 metres, and another is the habitat regulation assessment. Now, what KCC is saying to us is that all they're interested in with this application is whether or not it is lawful. So therefore, it doesn't matter whether it's ugly, it doesn't matter that it'll screw up the regeneration of Ramsgate, as indeed it will. It doesn't matter about any of that. Is it lawful? Well, the application is an interesting one in all sorts of ways and quite cunning. For instance, the photographs included seem to have been photoshopped so that the development looks as though it's miles away. And it also makes it look very small. But if you check the drawings that were also submitted with the planning application, they show a different story. The plans submitted include the current cement batching plant, and this is an issue that's dear to my own heart. I complained last year via Peter Campbell, who took the complaint up with TDC, who basically told us to get lost. Because I was walking on the Western Undercliff and I kept finding cement dust. I've shown several people some of it tonight. And I wondered where it was coming from. And then I found out that those two silos that had appeared on the Brett site a few years ago were cement batching plants. I had no idea beforehand because there'd been no community consultation. Anyway, coming back to the height requirement, 15 metres, right? If you exceed 15 metres, you're no longer under the general permitted development order. If you have a look at the drawings on the application, you will notice that the silo measurements go up to 14.1 metres. Above that is another bit of structure. And that structure, I estimate, is 2 metres. And I do this because Dennis Smith, who's here somewhere taking photographs, did some very good photographs of the site for me a couple of weeks ago. And I looked at the size of the silo and the ratio of that bit on the top to the rest of the silo, because I had those measurements. And lo and behold, it comes out at 2 metres. This means that the development was 16.1 metres. Now, Rex may be going to rely on the fact that it has been there for 4 years and therefore is legal. It's been there long enough. However, there is another piece of legislation which has amended Section 194 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990, which makes it an offence to provide false or misleading information or to withhold material information with intent to deceive. I am not alleging that that is what Brex has done. However, I would say that it certainly needs investigation. Section 193, in bracket 7, paragraph 7, enables the council to revoke at any time a certificate if it may have been issued as a result of false or misleading information. I think that any of us here are curious as to why that 2-metre top bit of the silo is not in the dimensions. What on earth could be the reason? So, I believe that coupled with Thanet District Council's failure to advise Natural England of the need for habitat assessment regulation, habitat regulation assessment in 2010 gives us an excellent grounds for a legal challenge. I would like to propose that we start a fighting fund to obtain a legal opinion from a very scary lawyer. John used one in Canterbury on a development and knows of somebody who'd be suitably scary. And I want to say that this has been a last-minute scramble by all of us, because it's only thanks to Peter Campbell, that we knew it was happening at all. And thank you, Peter. I would ask you all to follow the Nothing Concrete at Port Ramsgate Facebook page, because it will contain, over the ensuing weeks, calls to action. I would like you please to contact me at this meeting. Come up to me if you, like me, have made earlier protests about the cement batching plant that is there at the moment. So if you have, please contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Janet. Quite a lot of information, and there's more to come. So there's obviously a lot of food for thought, and also this isn't a lecture, so there will be an opportunity for questions, but the speakers will be taking them at the end. Unfortunately, we also don't have roaming mics, so you may need to project your voice, given that the lead wasn't as long as we thought. In addition to what Janet said, by the way, there are various legal challenges that can be made, because the extension to the area that threats are requiring is an additional 2 acres of the port. That means that in total, plus the area that they already occupy, there's something like 15,000 square feet minimum occupied. Permitted development rights only apply, and without getting too technical, you have various classes of operation. Batching plant are a Part B operation, as is aggregate washing and grading. 2 Part B operations on a site of more than 10,000 square feet requires unequivocally, in law, as required by the Secretary of State, an environmental impact assessment. That then means that any operation requiring an environmental impact assessment ceases to become permitted development. So it's our role as a community to know this fact and to get the legal support that we need to insist that the law is adhered to, rather than these under the carpet, under the radar schemes with no public consultation go on. And again, thank you, Peter Campbell, for bringing this to the attention of the community. And I think it's worth saying that we had very, very short notice to act on this. Thank you to Stuart Piper as well, because he has added to Peter's motion at the council, and thanks to these 2 gentlemen, the objection from Ramsgate Town Council was put together. And I think that's a very good example of cross-party working, because you've got two varying sets of beliefs, but working together in the community's interest. Without wishing to bore you any further with the detail that I'm waffling about, I'm now going to pass you over to our next speaker. In fact, she's not on the top table, but I'm going to ask Becky to speak at this point, because she's been doing an awful lot of research, and I think has got a few things that she'd like to say. She's just a little bit shy and retiring and didn't want to sit out front.
I come from a teaching background, so I'm not used to using these, and the first thing I obviously need to do is give you a telling off for something, and then we go to something nice, and then I'll give you another telling off. I didn't realise I could get quite so interested and intrigued by the reading of legislation, but I have over the last 2 weeks while I've been working, which has been quite difficult. But I think me and Janet are balls dogs with bones, and so I have read, and if the application has presently got in for the gravel washing blah 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 plant, which I would send it back and say could do better, because basically there are major holes in it. The piece of legislation I looked at was the Town and Country Planning Act Environmental Impact Assessment Regulations 2016, and I read that, and I think it needs to be thrown out for several reasons. One is the sand batching plant has been put into this bid. I don't understand that. It's like a different piece of GCSE work has suddenly been put in this bid. I don't understand that, but it's there. If something goes over 1,000 square metres, then automatically it needs an environmental impact assessment. If it's a change of activity, and I think that originally gravel was brought into the port and taken out of the port. That's what ports do. Stuff gets delivered, stuff goes out, stuff comes in, stuff goes back. That is a change of activity to an industrial process. So it needs a throwing out again. It needs a full application. This is a minor application, and when I spoke to James Bickle on my balcony, because I can also see the lovely towers, I said I needed to fill in more forms to change the colour of my house. James Bickle is the planning officer at KCC, who's the case officer who's picking up the gravel washing plant thing. He wouldn't speak to me the second time. I think he went and hid under a desk. I was very polite. He told me they were following the regulations, the law, so I went back and looked at the law, and then I wanted some things clarified, and at that point he wouldn't have a conversation with me. He also told me to contact Natural England. They've been great. The other thing in the bid that's quite strange is the day after the Ramsgate Town Council meeting, which I believe was on the 12th, 2 additional pieces of paper were uploaded to that bid. So I'm automatically thinking, my God, something's not right here. The first one is a letter, I think, dated in 2008, and it's a communication between somebody in TDC and the then Harbour Master. And basically, the gist of the letter is you've got all the permissions you need, I'll send you an email, and the Harbour Master is going to be responsible for undertaking an environmental report. Now, the email's not uploaded and the report isn't there either. So I think we need to see that environmental report. We need to see what the Harbour Master said about that sand batching plant. I'd also like to know why the Harbour Master thought he was qualified to undertake that, because that would be asking me to split an atom. And I'll go to Janet's. They are very clever, because the plans for the sand batching plant, I'm not quite sure why they're there, whether they're trying to sneak that in under the same plant, are actually written in German. It's a set of German plans, but at the bottom in English are the words "not to scale." Now, I looked at the dimensions at the side of the two things, and I reckon up the side it does say 15 metres and something, but I reckon that's another, and I'm going to use the word, hideous way of trying to not be honest about things. And you know, if we can all sit here and say, if there's a full application goes in and it follows the right procedure and they still think it should be there, then fine. I don't think it will. They also used a comparison to their sand batching plant in Ipswich, so I got on Google Earth. The one in Ipswich is away from main areas of residents. I think it's about, I don't know whether they've got a harbour, but it's definitely out on a limb. It's a port, not a harbour. It's interesting because I then went to look at their planning permission for Brett's, and they started there in 1993. There are 4 full applications for Brett's to increase the type of work they do there, and they were all full applications. So I don't know how this one is a minor application. I then looked at London Borough of Newham, have got a cement batching plant there, and I've actually, because that went through a full application, it had an environmental impact assessment, and I actually downloaded the conditions that had to be put in place. And that's the main thing that worries me as a resident of Ramsgate, not just for the humans but for the wildlife and the marine wildlife. We've presently got a sand batching plant. We don't know who the responsible authority is that's monitoring them. Is it TDC? Is it KCC? Where are the conditions, the health and safety conditions that should be put in place if there'd been a full application and an environmental impact assessment? If none of those are there, then I think there are frequent breaches of health and safety. A boat came in on, I think it was it Tuesday night? It came in on Tuesday. That boat was still working. It was still offloading gravel at 8:30 at night. 2 mornings the week before, that cars were leaving the cement batching plant before 7 o'clock in the morning. And under this application, they will work from 7 in the morning until 7 at night, 6 days a week. On a Saturday, they'll go until 1 o'clock. I think they're already breaching whatever they're breaching, but if there are no controls in place, nobody's keeping an eye on them. So I am just a resident of Ramsgate, and I think it's good that we're pulling together. I think it's about time the tail wags the dog. I still have an issue with inequality of funding. I don't just want more funding for Ramsgate. I want to make sure there's funding for Ramsgate, Margate, Broadstairs and the villages, and I think it's about time we as a group of people in Ramsgate need to stand up and be counted. So like Janet said, there will be further things on these people's